Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Christina. I've been at City North, a few years. We started coming literally right before COVID shut everything down. And what else? I was born in the church. I've been raised in the church, so I'm that girl. It's okay. You're going to be able to relate to me. I'm going to get there. You're going to see that we have some things in common. By starting out, I have a feeling you feel like me sometimes. Maybe it's today. Maybe it was yesterday. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. But sometimes I feel sad and I'm angry. And I feel very discouraged. I feel unworthy. I don't feel like I'm good enough. And then there's a lot of ugly going on in the world too, right? So I'm questioning why. Why is there so much ugly? And how do I fix that? And why does God let that happen? So many things. Am I right? Do you guys ever feel that way? Can you relate? You are like me. But why I get up each day and why I keep going is because of my faith. Because I believe there is good. I actually believe there's more good than there is bad in the world. And that's what faith is. We're really fortunate. God gave us a scripture, a real definition of faith in Hebrews 11:1. And that is faith. I'm simple. So it's faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we don't see. I'm going to say that again. Faith is being sure, confident of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And how we do that, again, it's belief, right? I have to believe there's good in the world so that I can be full of joy and I can be happy because we know there's going to be hard things. We know it's not easy, but it's how we make it through that is believing God loves me and God's going to get me through that. So I'm going to share my story, one of my stories. Through life, I have faced a lot of things just like you. Loss of a job and financial struggles and not finding a husband. Believe it or not, I was 34 before God sent me an amazing husband. That's another whole story for faith that we can talk about later. But a lot of struggles. And on the opposite side, so many wonderful, wonderful things that he has continued to bless me with. So as I mentioned, Ronnie and I met later in life. So we wanted to start pretty quickly trying to have a child. And we tried and failed. And we tried and failed. And some of you may know what that's like. And maybe you don't, but you know the feelings. You've had some of those feelings. It's sadness, and it's guilt, and it's I'm a disappointment. And why is this happening to me? And then another month comes along, and I'm angry because it didn't happen. And I'm questioning God. And I think I'm a decent enough person. Can't you give me this one little thing that I want? Do you ever question God? Do you wonder why bad things are happening to you in the moment? And it's okay. It's okay to question God. And another month, right? Months go on. To top it off, I can't even think of a beautiful name for this child that I don't have. I was named after, my middle name is after both of my grandmothers, right? So my mom's mother and my dad's mother, and they put those names together and I got this middle name. So I knew I was going to do that for my own child. So here we go. My mother's name is Bonita Faye. I have a lot to work with here, people. I don't know. She's 75. I think it was some actress. I don't know. Bonita Faye. Ronnie's mother's name is Edith Cavell. They're from South Africa. That's all I can tell you. I have no idea. Okay, so here we are. I'm trying to come up with any combination of Bonita Faye and Edith Cavell that remotely might be some kind of name. So we've got Bonedith, Cavellita, I'm scoring, Fable. Listen, little Fable in the back. No offense, but these names are ugly. All right. So it's becoming very clear to me, right? The signs are there. I'm not getting pregnant. I can't even come up with a name. God does not want me to have a baby. So the anger, right? Again, the questioning. Until I start spending more time with God. That happened to you? You get in a spiral. Whatever that bad thing is happening to you right now, because it is. That's the one thing I know we all have in common. That person sitting next to you or in front of you or beside you is struggling with something. But what we're really good at is pretending we're not. Because no one wants to see us be whiny or needy, right? But they are. And somebody says something to you, or a little prayer might happen, and you start realizing, wait, okay, God is for me. I have faith. So I start getting to a point after months and months and months of anger and disappointment, and I'm letting my spouse down, of saying, okay, God, I think I got it. I've waited a long time for a long time. Did I mention I was 34 before? Okay, a long time. So maybe I'm supposed to be content with just having a great spouse. And you know what? I don't have to birth my own child. We can foster. We can adopt. You know what else? I can love babies in the nursery. We can serve the Lord really well, even if I don't have my own baby. I have faith, God. I'm going to be okay. So, I'm on a business trip. I travel a lot for work, so I'm on an airplane. And I think to try to just get some closure, right, for the acceptance of this in my life, I pull down that little tiny tray, on the airplane, and I have this is going to work great. I have my little notebook and my ink pen. So I write out my mom's name. There it is, Bonita Faye. And I write out Ronnie's name, Edith Cavell. Right? So I'm coming to acceptance. God, I get it. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to love you and serve you and get to heaven. God takes my hand in this moment, and he circles these two letters in my mom's name, and he circles these letters in my mother-in-law's name. And in that moment, my God said, because of your faith, I'm going to give you a baby. And he did. And I knew she was going to be a girl because it's Faith, right? I don't know very many boys that have the name Faith. So the important thing is he said, because of your faith. He didn't say have faith. I proved that I was faithful. I accepted that, right? In the hard and in the difficult. He said, because of your faith, I'm going to give you a baby. So I did get pregnant. Ronnie and I prepared a nursery. So we have a photo, I think. Okay. So we created this nursery with that scripture above her crib. Faith is being sure of what you hope for and certain of what you do not see, which is Hebrews 11:1. And then my baby girl was born January 1st. That's my little Abigail. And not only that, a year later, my God blessed us with another baby girl, little Annalise. My girls today are 11 and almost 12 and 13 here in a couple of months. So we work hard every day to teach them about the Lord, to help them grow in faith, which coincidentally challenges my faith every single day, by the way. Parenting, okay, it's good. So in essence, to wrap it up, I am sure you're facing a struggle. I am sure you're questioning if God is going to come through for you. And what I know is the song we just sang, one of my favorite songs, is He's faithful. God is faithful when we're faithful. And we got to remember, because we want something, the answer might be no. The answer might be yes, and the answer might be wait, because we don't know. I'm not God. God is God. But when you are faithful, God proves himself faithful to you.
Hey, City North, my name is Will Cotter, and if you don't know me, I am a technical sales engineer that works in different paper mills between Ohio and Indiana. That's where paper is before it goes into Mifflin. And I am also engaged to the beautiful Courtney Farrell. I had to give her a shout out. Thank you. But having said that, I'm working full-time, and my fiance works full-time, and she goes to school full-time, and we're full-time wedding planning. So it's kind of an overwhelming season of life, and I found myself in this season in creeping times of the day wondering, can I do this? Is this something that I can actually do? Follow God while being overwhelmed in a battle? And I believe that through my story and through Scripture, the answer is yes. So I just want to jump right into it, and if I rewind the clocks back about a year and a half ago, I was in the second semester of my senior year at college, and I decided to drop a fraternity. And before I even go any further, this is not a sermon that's saying all fraternities are bad or all drinking is bad. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is if there's anything that is genuinely, on your heart that you're trying to find purpose and fulfillment from that's not God, then that's something that's going to leave you unsatisfied. And that was the truth in my life. I just was totally unsatisfied. And when I was, I felt the Holy Spirit come on to me and say, hey, you need to give this up. And so when I stepped away from the organization, I received a lot of hurt, pain, and bitterness from my support system. And I felt truly like just absolute emptiness, deeply alone, depressed, and questioning my purpose and value. And in that, I was wondering, where's God? Because at 7 or 8 years old, I gave my life to God, but where's God in this? And so before sharing the rest of my story, that's the end, by the way. No, before sharing the rest of my story, I want to shift over to Scripture, to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, starting at verse 35. So that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, and this is Jesus, by the way, for context. Jesus has just preached a bunch of parables and to the public and the disciples, and he's now taken the disciples onto a boat. So that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, let us go to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, Quiet, be still. Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? They were terrified and asked each other, Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. And I used to love that story as a kid, but honestly, I'm not even going to focus on the miracle. What I'm going to focus on is the disciples. Believe it or not. The disciples is kind of what captivates me, because what the disciples didn't believe, I think, is the power of Jesus. They didn't believe in it because, one, they were passive-aggressive with Jesus. And I don't know about you, when I'm passive-aggressive, it's normally because I'm stressed and I'm anxious. They were stressed and they were anxious. They didn't think they were going to get out of that situation. And the second reason I say that is because when Jesus does something, they didn't anticipate it. They were like, whoa, look at that. Look at what he just did. Instead of being like, yeah, that's God. That's what he does. He performs miracles. And so I want to go back to my story because I felt like the disciples where I was at. I didn't anticipate that God could take me, that he could show me that I had purpose, that he could show me that I had value. And I basically said, God, you know what? Here's how it is. I'm just going to give it plain and simple. I don't know if anybody can fix this, but if you want to try, go ahead. And that's all the permission that God needed, because like a storm being calmed, God was faithful. I was at the lowest point of my life, and God sent just a crazy string of events. It started with a linear algebra professor that said, hey, there's somebody in class that could use some help. And when I met with that student, he invited me to a Christian event. At the Christian event, I can't make this up, there's one spot open for a retreat that weekend. I didn't get a t-shirt, but I got a whole lot more, because after going, I was able to meet an amazing community that started to show me, hey, the way you view God isn't right. Like, God loves you. He's not here to condemn you, to hurt you. Later on, I went on a missions trip, but honestly, I was the one that needed the missions. I needed to know who God was. I knew we needed to know who the God that I invited into my heart at 7 to 8 years old was. And so all this to say, I had a community that prayed for me. I had a community that started to teach me who God was, and more importantly, who God wasn't. And over time, this community shifted because college ended, and now it's shifted to a number of different people in my life, including you. So thank you, City North. It shifted to just an amazing God-fearing fiance, an amazing accountability partner in my life. Thank you, Scott. And just my life changed. And so I just kind of want to use all of this, and as an application, it's kind of like, well, okay, where does that leave us? And my encouragement to you is that when you find yourself in storms, number one is to go to God first. Like me and the disciples in those stories, it was great, but we didn't go to God first. We didn't trust that God could do something. So when you find yourself in a situation that's hard, go to God first. And maybe that's coming to God today. And I want to invite you to, if you've never done that, or if maybe you need to reaffirm the relationship that you want with God, because he's not here to condemn you. He's here to bring you peace, bring you joy, and renew your soul. That's what he did for me. If he can do it for me, he can do it for you. The second thing is that when God calms storms in your life, I believe that we are to remember it, to praise God during it and after it, and we're to share it and tell others. In Philippians 2:2, Paul talks about how we should be of one spirit and of one mind. He's saying that we need to talk about it. We need to share it, because that's going to help other people when they're in their storms. And now the third thing is that when resolution does not come, because not all stories end that way, as Christina brought up, we need to trust a couple things. Number one is that God's working for our good. Romans 8:28 says that God is always working for our good, even if it doesn't feel like it. And especially when it doesn't feel like it, we need to remember who God is. We need to remember that he is with us. He weeps when we weep. He loves us when we are going through tough times. In John 11, I always think about how Jesus literally cried with the sisters of a man who was dead moments before he raised him from the dead. So remember that wherever you're at, the heartbreak, the pain that you feel, that's real. And it's not wrong to feel that. But know that God's right there with you, and he loves you through that. So I just want to close by saying thank you, City North, for letting me speak to you today. Just about a little part of my life. And I'm praying that the peace of God would guard your hearts and your minds as you go through different storms this week. Thanks.
I don't want to retell your story, so that's good you took your notes. Hi. Hi, guys. I'm Tamara, and, well, I'm a lot. A real lot. I have this whole list of things that I am, and I have this whole list of things that I'm not. But when Andrew asked me if I could speak, I was thinking, is he going to give me 5 hours? And then he's like, no, Tam, you only got 5 minutes. And I was like, whoo, okay, I'm not sure I could do that, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I was born in West Virginia. I grew up in a little steel mill town down on the Ohio River. I'm a mom of 5, and I'm a grandma to the cutest little baby you ever did see. I'm a wife to Bob. I have followed Jesus for over 40 years, And I know what y'all thinking. That's impossible because she's looking like she's only 30, you know? But the truth is a lot of times in my head, I'm still only 18. And my behavior reflects that. So, but honestly, though, as much as I love to laugh and I love to have fun, the truth is I'm a lot because I've been through a lot. I couldn't have kids, but we fostered, and we fostered over 50 kids, and boy, that can be challenging at times. We've adopted 2 children, four, sorry. Well, I left 2 of you out, sorry. We've adopted 4 children, 2 who almost died, and then in 2013, I almost died. And the list goes on. I mean, when I say I'm a lot, I'm a lot. You know, we all have stuff, and my stuff isn't the same as your stuff, but it's there, and we deal with that stuff every single day. And here's the problem with having stuff. You know, sometimes I have found that our stuff makes us feel like God doesn't care. And sometimes it makes God feel like he's distant and he's not listening. You ever feel like that? And then what? What happens when our stuff makes us feel like God just gave up? Like, just gave up, and we have failed. What happens when the stuff is too big? What happens when there's just no hope left? In the Bible, there's a guy named James, and he has written a lot of words. But some of those words I look back on and I think, wow, that has really helped get me through. James 1:2-3 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Well, that's true. You know, life has been interesting ever since I decided to follow Jesus and say, "Yes, Lord." And looking back, here's what I know. God has gotten me through some really, really hard stuff. Without him, I couldn't have done it. But because of that, you know, he has helped me just gain a perseverance. And I can't explain that. I can't tell you how or why. It's just there. It's a perseverance from just living life. You know, the moment they placed Bella, she's one of my children, one that I left out, the moment they placed Bella in my arms, I looked down at that sweet little face and I was like, "You're a forever baby." Because she was the last baby that I got out of all those children. She was my last. And I knew in my spirit that she was my forever baby. Well, my forever baby never slept, and my forever baby puked. So much so that we nicknamed her Baby Pukes a lot. And until she was 3. And then at the age of 3, she just stopped. And from then on, she was never sick. I mean, she didn't have a cough. She never got a cold. She never had a fever. She never even had sniffles. She was as healthy as could be. Until March 1st, 2015. Bella puked. And she puked, and she puked, and she puked. Gut-wrenching puking for 32 days straight, 24/7. They called in all the specialists that they could. They ran all the tests that they could. They couldn't find anything wrong with her. They weren't even sure that she was going to live. And quite honestly, after I watched her code for like the 3rd time, I wasn't sure she was either. She had lost almost 40 pounds. She rejected the feeding tubes. Every time they put an IV in her, within a matter of days, sometimes in a matter of hours, her veins would blow. They just didn't know what to do. They even brought in someone and they did acupuncture, and they even attempted hypnosis. Was I scared? Yeah, I was. I was watching my forever baby slowly die. Now, I want you to know that scared doesn't mean that you don't have faith. And scared doesn't mean that you don't have hope. And if anyone tells you that, that's wrong. You know, during that time, we constantly had worship music playing in the background. And we prayed. And we had so many people praying. And it gave so much hope to Bella. And sometimes she would say, Mama, play that song again. And I would for like the 100th time over. There is so much power in prayer. And those are the things that brought us comfort and got us through. And then, on day 32, she stopped. Just like that. It was a miracle. She stopped. It turns out that Bella has this rare condition that only 3% of people in the world have. And she's got some other ongoing medical conditions. And that she's going to have to live with those for the rest of her life. But here's what I know. God was faithful. God is faithful. He got us through that, and he's going to continue to get us through. How has God proven himself to me? When I felt all hope was lost, it wasn't. God heard me in the darkness. God heard me in the silence. God heard me in the middle of chaos. God heard me. I turned to Jesus because that's all I could do, and I clung to him. He has given me so much strength to endure so much more than I could ever imagine. And here's what I know. You're going to go through a trial. And through that trial, if you put your faith in Jesus and in God alone, you're going to grow that same perseverance. And it will grow, and it will grow, and it will grow. And no matter what you've been through, I know this sounds crazy, but there's so much more than just Bella. But through it all, I still have joy because of God. So to finish, I would like to read the first verse of one of my favorite songs that captures all this perfectly. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, that has taught me to say, it is well in my soul. This is how God has proven himself to me. No matter what I've been through, it is well with my soul. And I know that no matter what you're going through now or what you're going to go through tomorrow, if you place God in your life and God alone first, it will be well with your soul.
All right, my name is Justin Parisi, and I have the most interesting family story of really anyone in this room. So I'm going to tell like one page of it and just share it with you. So in introduction, God has always been faithful to me, even when I haven't been faithful to him. God has always provided for me. Even when I didn't see it or understand it, or it wasn't like exactly what I asked for. And God's plan for my life has created experiences and lessons to me that have made life rich, and I'm grateful for those. And have given an education that you couldn't pay $1 million for. So let me give you a little background. So growing up, when I was born, there was just my mom. you know, and I know a lot of people say their dad's like not around or shows up once a year. Like my birth certificate is blank where my father is. It's not there. Didn't know his name for 37 years. Didn't even know his name. My mom, she's, you know, she did the best she could, and she is a very hardworking person. But there were just times that she couldn't be a mom. So I'm sitting here, and it's kind of like having one bum leg, like, and one leg cut off, right? I'm trying to hobble around and grow up as a kid with no legs. And there's no wheelchair for that type of situation. So from about 11 on, I kind of bounced around to a lot of places. I did live, you know, with 3 families for, you know, a little bit of time apiece. But bounced down into some boys' homes, a little juvenile detention, stuff like that. Just whoever would take me. So, you know, here I am through all this, you know, and I have a lot of anger. I still have a lot of anger. I've harnessed anger. Hey, why God? Like, why this situation with this dad? And why did I get this? Why did I get this? The mom that I got, you know. So what does that create? It creates some feelings of like jealousy, right? You see like people with their kids and they're being good to them, and there's like 2 grown-ups and 1 or 2 kids, and I'm like, wow, man, that seems pretty foreign, you know. And then there's like embarrassment. It's a funny part, you know, my last name's Parisi, as some of you have guessed. That is a very Italian last name, so people will ask you questions like, oh, Parisi, your father must be Italian. Well, how do you answer that and not lie? And truth is, I'm 0% Italian. So, you know, you reply back with something that defers the question, like, yeah, I make my own wine and I have 2 Cadillacs. You know, and that's not a lie, right? But it's a good way to move on, right? Move on to the question. You know, or you get a little PTSD, right? When you, hey, guys, guess what? In science, we're going to do Punnett squares. Yeah, except you don't know the half of your Punnett square. Or, hey guys, we're going to do some genealogy and you're going to draw your family tree. And that was fantastic because in a stroke of irony, my mom put me in Catholic school for the first 4 years of my life, which is not the place to go to relate to other kids that don't have a dad. So there's that. So I want to share, so I had a lot of feelings. Right? I had not been provided for. I had not been given what I was owed, which were the 2 parents that everybody else got. Says so in the Bible. Right? I did not get the promise. And I was getting really angry about that. And that compounded when I turned 32 and I had this little girl, and this stroke of irony. Like, I know little girls need their dads, but what is a dad? And how do I do that? I better figure out, I'm on YouTube and Google and like, how do I father this kid? Because she's going to need it, right? So anyway, that was very hard. And that, I had dealt with that stuff for a long time, but that brought it all back. So I had to find a way to deal with this because there's past a certain age, you can't blame your parents for everything wrong in your life. It's simply not a good look. You get through it in your teens, your 20s, maybe to 30. But at some point, like, people don't want to hear it anymore, okay? So I had to find a way to deal with that. In Matthew 6:26, you know, he shares, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow, they do not reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? All right, hey, so is this true for me? I had to think, right? I had to look outside the box of what I didn't have. And I had to look to the box of what I did. So I'm asking myself this question, have I ever not been provided for? Well, there was always somebody there. You know, I had amazing caseworkers. I had families that took me in, you know, one's here today. That keep helping me out, help me out as much today, you know, as they did 29 years ago. I had all these people along the way, a shop teacher that had me keep my nose clean, right? So God had assembled these people around me. It wasn't the what I thought was the promise of the two people that are there your whole life, but it was the promise of people that were always there, right? God was working through these people to keep me from, largely becoming a juvenile delinquent. I mostly raise my kid. I mostly pay my taxes, right? I go to work most days. So, and that's all through God and not me, because I'm an angry person sometimes. That really helped answer the question, because for a little while I was curious. I said, is my God an absentee father like the father that I had? That's going to be pretty hard then to come in here. Hey, maybe if I believe that to be true, I guess on the plus side, that would save me an hour every Sunday, right? But on the minus side, I just couldn't have that. So, the other question it helped me answer, right? Were these situations needed to shape me into who I am? I'm in a house with we've got multiple kids in this house, and they're not all mine, and I didn't start with all of them. But you know what? Like, we're trying to figure this out, and we're doing our best to try to treat everybody as if they are, because in a lot of houses I lived, there were two sets of kids, and we weren't the favorite set. In a lot of experiences. So did that experience prepare me for this experience? I don't know. We'll see, right? And I'll find my answer when I get to heaven on that. Could God have constructed a better plan for me than I could have constructed for myself? I mean, if I would have made it my way, it would be 75 every day. Gas would be 50 cents a gallon, and I'd be on my boat, right? But I don't know how much I would learn from that, right? So then, as we wrap up, is God this Burger King God that lets you have it your way? Every time, really quick, every time you pull through the drive-thru, no wait, right? Or does he give us just what we need, right? Even, does he make us take that pill that doesn't taste good? Does he make us do the hard thing so that we can do the hard thing later in life? So in conclusion, God's always been there. I have to look. He doesn't give me what I want, but in looking around, and if you look deeper, you can see that God's always there for you too, even if it's not exactly what you ask for, right? God gave me a story worth sharing, and this is like one page of a 500-page, really good story. And if we all look deeper into our own stories, we'll all see God's provision. It is seldom what you ask for, but I promise you that it's already there. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Good morning. My name's Jason. I'm a faithful follower of Jesus Christ, and I'm an alcoholic and suffer from anxiety. This is how I introduced myself at Celebrate Recovery roughly 8 months or so ago, when I started the process of dealing with an issue that I've been avoiding for 17 years. And the day that I said I would give my control over to God instead of a substance. I grew up in a devout Catholic household with loving parents, close friends, and a firm foundation in my faith. I went to college where my faith faded, and God fell further and further down on my priority list. After college, I met Sarah, my wife. We dated, married, and had 2 beautiful girls, hence the shirt. And life was good, at least at the surface level. We hadn't gone to church in a while. I hadn't practiced my faith, and prayer was not part of my everyday life. There was one thing that was part of my everyday life, and that was alcohol. It helped me cover up my emotions, feelings, and things I didn't want to feel. I think everyone can relate to things that, habits or whatever, that help you avoid pain in your life. The breaking point for me happened about 8 months ago. It was a typical Sunday evening. Sarah was getting ready for bed, and I snuck out to the garage to have one more beer to scratch that itch of getting drunk. Sarah opened the door and said, "Jason, what are you doing out here?" "Oh, just getting something from my truck." "Are you having a beer?" "No," as I tried to hide the beer can. She found it, along with many other beer cans from prior similar events. I had been lying to my wife of 9 years, and this wasn't the first time. She was broken. I was broken. I knew I had to turn to God. I didn't have the words back then, but as I was doing research for this, I found the exact words my heart was trying to pray. In Psalms chapter 40, verses 11 through 13, God says, or the psalmist says, "Do not withhold your mercy from me, Lord. May your love and faithfulness always protect me. For troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me, and I cannot see. They are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails within me. Be pleased to save me, Lord. Come quickly, Lord, to help me." I didn't know what the coming hours, days, weeks, or months would look like, but I knew I needed God to save me. So the question today was, how has God proven himself to me? God proved himself to me when I hit rock bottom. He was already there waiting for me. God had already put people in my life I didn't know I needed. He had already done things to prepare a way forward for me. It was like God knew where I was going, so he just went there and sat there and waited patiently for me. And then he did something even more amazing. Just a few verses earlier in Psalms chapter 40, verse 2, the psalmist writes, "He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand." And that's exactly what God did. He pulled me out of the pit that I dug for myself and put me on solid rock. Here I stand in front of you all, blessed, far from perfect, but blessed for knowing God's faithfulness in my life. He gave me sobriety. He started to restore my marriage. He gave me the courage to have difficult conversations with friends and family that I had a problem. He brought our family to City North, where he gave us people that loved us and supported us throughout the process. He helped me find a therapist that I talked to regularly about my feelings and emotions. And he gave me my wife that stood by me and supported me. I don't know your story, your pain, or your pit. You may or may not be lying to your spouse about a substance. But what I do know is that the God that was waiting for me in my pit is the same God waiting for you in yours. The God that pulled me out of my pit is the same God that will pull you out of yours. And the God that has put my feet on solid ground and began to restore my life is the same God who will put your feet on solid ground and restore you. The God that has been so faithful to me is the God that will never fail you. Thank you all.